Hi guys, I'd like to talk to you about the most important part of piano playing, which is how to practice. Proper practice technique will help you to learn your pieces faster, make practice more enjoyable, and mean that you get a lot more out of your piano playing. There are 4 words beginning with S, which I like to use to help my pupils remember how best to practice. I may have mentioned these 4 words, which I call the 4 S's, in our lessons before. And I'd like to talk about how they can help us to get the most out of our practice. The 4 S's are slow, steady, strong, and small. The other words which I want you to remember and are important to achieving our best are correct, confident, and comfortable. In other words, it's not enough that you can play the right notes or the right dynamics or the right rhythm. It must be played in a convincing and confident manner and with no tension so that it's comfortable for you. However, that's really another topic and I'd like to talk to you about that in another video. Instead today, let's talk about the 4 S's and how they can help you to get the most out of your practice. First of all, slow. The slower you practice, the faster you learn. The goal is to practice as slowly as is necessary in order to get everything correct. Or in other words, if you're making mistakes, you're practicing too fast. No matter how fast a piece you're learning, we must have completely separate practice speeds and performance speeds. We'd all love to learn at lightning speed, but the brain cannot learn a piece at full speed. And we must practice at the speed that the brain learns, not at however fast we want the final speed to be. I have been learning the piano for over 20 years and I still practice things at half or even quarter speed sometimes. When it comes to practice speed, there's no such thing as too slow, only too fast. Of course, once I've learned it, I'll speed it back up, but I must practice it slowly first. Slow practicing helps reduce tension, which makes piano playing easier and actually helps us to learn faster. Remember, the slower you practice, the faster you learn. Secondly, steady. We must practice with a clear and steady beat or we will get the rhythm wrong. Think about how fast you want to play your music. Count in 1 or 2 bars before you begin and then make sure you play with the same speed of beat that you just counted. Make sure you know where the beats are and make the first beat of the bar a little stronger. This is what's called the downbeat. And by making it a little stronger than the others, it gives the bar shape and direction. Coordination between the 2 hands is one of the main things that lead to unsteadiness. Practicing slower helps, especially if it's the first time we're putting our 2 hands together. If you hear yourself being unsteady, practice slower and slower until it is correct, confident and comfortable, and then speed it back up. Another technique that can help is practicing the rhythm on its own by closing the piano lid and tapping the rhythm of the 2 hands on the lid. Third, strong. When we practice slowly, we must practice with a strong sound. By this, I mean make sure that the keys go right down into the key bed. We don't want to hear any ghost notes. Playing strong helps to make our playing sound more confident, and in turn this makes us feel more confident about what we are playing. Even if the music should be soft, playing it strongly first helps us to hear the notes more clearly and be confident that what we're playing is correct. Once we're sure we're playing the right notes and the right rhythm, we can then put the dynamics back in. Finally, small. This is probably the most important part of piano practice. It is the part that most people get wrong and it really slows down their progress. I know I used to do this wrong and once I changed it, I improved dramatically and I made much more progress much faster. Most people when they practice, they start at the beginning and they go to the end. And if they make a mistake, they'll stop and they'll work on it for a bit and then they'll go back to the beginning and go to the end. This is a huge waste of time and it's a very slow way of practicing. By doing this, they are playing the parts that they can already play again and again, and this is a huge waste of their time. If you can already play something, you don't need to practice it. Instead, they should focus only on the parts that are hard and that need the most work. By practicing in small chunks like this, we streamline our practice and improve our progress. In this next section, I'm going to talk about bars, but depending on your piece of music, it might be better to practice in longer phrases or even one beat at a time. Have a look at your music and use your judgment. When starting a new piece, the best way to practice is to play the first bar maybe 6 to 10 times until it is perfect. But don't just practice mindlessly. Really listen to what you're playing and try to make every repetition sound better than the last one. Then, and this is the most important part, once you're happy with how it sounds, put it to one side, move on to bar 2 and practice it and only it until it sounds perfect too. Once each bar is perfect separately, only then do we put them together. This is really important. What a lot of people get wrong is they add the bars together too soon. So they practice the first bar, the first 2, the first 3, and so on. What happens when they come to play it is that the first bar sounds great, the second bar sounds good, the third bar sounds okay, and so on. It gets worse as it goes on. By practicing each bar separately like this, we even out our practice and we make sure that everything is the same high quality when we come to perform it. So now we have the first 2 bars together, we put them to one side and we move on to bar 3 and practice it until it is perfect. And then we forget about it and practice the 4th bar. Once we have bars 3 and 4 perfect separately, we put them together, and then once that is perfect, we practice all 4 bars together. Then we forget about all 4 bars and we move on to the next 4 bars. So we would practice bar 5, bar 6, bars 5 and 6, bar 7, bar 8, bar 7 and 8, and then bars 5 to 8, and finally bars 1 to 8. Continue to practice like this in 4-bar chunks. The reason we do this in 4-bar chunks is because most music is written in 4-bar phrases. If your music is written in shorter or longer phrases, practice it in a way that suits the piece. If you've already started a piece, when you sit down to practice it again, before you do anything else, think about what part you found the hardest the last time you practiced, and practice that first until it is perfect. Try to think about what it is that you're doing wrong and how to fix it. Maybe practice only 1 bar or 1 beat, or maybe only 1 hand at a time, or close the piano lid and practice the rhythm and the coordination, or write down finger numbers or note names, whatever helps. Once you've got it correct and sounding confident and comfortable, add a bar or 2 onto the end. And then start a bar or 2 beforehand. This way we practice leading up into the hard part and out of it too. And then once you've got that part sounding perfect, find the next part that gave you trouble and practice that next, and so on. Only once you've got each of those little tricky parts sounding correct, confident and comfortable, only then go back to the start and play through it again. If, however, you've learned the first half or the first section and it's sounding perfect, then when you come to practice, move on to the next section. Don't practice that first part again. Trust yourself to remember it and move on. But remember, whatever you're practicing, playing it slowly, steadily, strong, and in small chunks helps a lot. A lot of people, when I tell them to practice like this, ask me if it's still okay to play the parts or pieces that they enjoy. Of course it is. After all, that's why we're learning to play the piano, is to have fun and enjoy ourselves. That's why we call it playing the piano. But that is playing, not practicing. And as fun as it is, you'll make much more progress much faster if you practice like this. So practice like this first, then play the parts or pieces that you enjoy. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that it has helped. In my next video, I'd like to talk you through practicing a piece so you can see this practice technique in action. If there's anything else you'd like me to talk about in my future videos, please let me know and I'll do my best to answer your question.